Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
The Eleatic philosopher Parmenides of Elea, a figure whose influence resonates through the annals of Western thought, presented a radical ontological vision that continues to challenge and provoke. His work, primarily contained within the fragments of his poem on nature marks a decisive turning point in the pre-Socratic era. It shifted the focus from the dynamic flux of the cosmos, as explored by earlier thinkers, to the unwavering stability of being itself. Parmenides' project was audacious to construct a rigorously reasoned account of reality predicated on the fundamental principle that being is and non-being is. This seemingly simple assertion, however, unleashed a cascade of profound implications, reshaping the very foundations of epistemology and metaphysics. The intellectual landscape preceding Parmenides was rich with competing perspectives. The Milesians, Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes sought to identify the fundamental substance, the asterisk or chi asterisk, from which all things originated. Thales posited water, Anaximander the boundless asterisk aperon asterisk, and Anaximenes air. These early natural philosophers, though diverse in their specific proposals, shared a commitment to understanding the cosmos through rational inquiry, a departure from the mythological accounts that had previously dominated Greek thought. Heraclitus, another pivotal figure, emphasized the ceaseless flux and change inherent in the universe, captured in his famous dictum, "Everything flows." The world, for Heraclitus, was defined by constant becoming, a dynamic interplay of opposing forces. These thinkers, with their emphasis on change, multiplicity, and the role of sensory experience, provided the backdrop against which Parmenides developed his groundbreaking perspective. He engaged with these predecessors, implicitly and explicitly, crafting a philosophy that both responded to and diverged from their insights. Parmenides' poem, structured as a journey, begins with the goddess revealing to him two distinct ways of inquiry: the way of truth and the way of opinion. The way of truth, the focus of his philosophical investigation, is the path of rigorous logic and reason. It is here that Parmenides articulates his central thesis: being exists, and non-being does exist. This principle, he argues, is the bedrock of all true understanding. To conceive of non-being, to even speak of it, is, according to Parmenides, to render the form of being, a concept in which nothing can be said and nothing can exist. This is because thought, for Parmenides, can only apprehend what is. To think about something is, in a sense, to make it be within the realm of thought. The implications of this ontological commitment are far-reaching. If being is, and non-being is not, then being must possess certain characteristics. It must be eternal, for it could never have come into being from non-being. It must be indivisible, for any division would imply a separation into non-being. It must be unchanging, for any alteration would involve the introduction of non-being. These are the foundational tenets of the way of truth. They form the basis of Parmenides' deductive arguments, which aim to demonstrate the properties of being. The rejection of non-being as a legitimate object of thought and discourse is perhaps the most radical aspect of Parmenides' doctrine. It leads into a deep skepticism regarding the reliability of sensory experience. The senses, he argues, are prone to error, capable of deceiving us into believing in the reality of change, multiplicity, and the apparent existence of empty space. The world presented to us through our senses, the world of becoming, is, in Parmenides' view, an illusion. It is a realm of opinion, of mere appearances, and cannot reveal the true nature of reality. The influence of his predecessors is evident in Parmenides' methodology. The Milesians' search for a fundamental principle, a single asterisk or chi asterisk, anticipates Parmenides' emphasis on the unity of being. Heraclitus' focus on change, however, provided a direct point of contrast. Parmenides, in effect, offers a counterargument to Heraclitus' vision of a world in constant flux. Instead of embracing becoming, Parmenides sought to establish the unchanging, eternal nature of reality. The emphasis on rigorous reasoning and logical deduction, however, sets Parmenides apart. He moves beyond the speculative cosmologies of his predecessors, seeking to ground his claims in a systematic, internally consistent philosophical system. The way of truth is, therefore, a rigorous exercise in logical deduction. It is a journey of thought that seeks to uncover the fundamental nature of reality through the careful application of reason. Parmenides' work is not merely a statement of belief, it is an argument, a sustained effort to demonstrate the logical necessity of his conclusions. The impact of this approach is immense. It established a new standard for philosophical inquiry, emphasizing the importance of logic, consistency, and the pursuit of a unified understanding of the world. Parmenides' assertion that being is and non-being is thus stands as a testament to the power of abstract thought. It is a challenge to our everyday experience, a call to look beyond the surface of things and to seek the underlying reality that governs all existence. His work, a cornerstone of Western philosophical thought, invites us to question the very foundations of our understanding and to consider the possibility that the world we perceive is, at least in part, an illusion. The legacy of Parmenides lies not only in his specific conclusions, but also in the method he employed, the emphasis on reason, and the relentless pursuit of truth. His work forces us to confront fundamental questions about the nature of reality, knowledge, and the limits of human understanding. The profound implications of his philosophy would continue to be debated and reinterpreted for millennia, shaping the course of Western thought in ways that are still felt today. Parmenides' central argument, a cornerstone of Eleatic philosophy, pivots on rigorous, deductive reasoning. He commences with a fundamental assertion: being is. This simple statement, seemingly self-evident, becomes the bedrock upon which he constructs an intricate edifice of thought. The very act of stating being implies the possibility of non-being, the absence of existence. However, Parmenides swiftly dismisses this possibility. Non-being, he argues, cannot be, because it is, by definition, nothing. To speak of non-being, or to even think of it, is to implicitly acknowledge its existence, which contradicts its very nature. Therefore, only being can be. The logical structure of Parmenides' argument unfolds with a precision reminiscent of Euclidean geometry. He employs a series of interconnected deductions, each building upon the previous one, to arrive at his conclusions. The first key step involves establishing the impossibility of non-being. If non-being were possible, it would either be, or it would be the opposite of being. However, as the opposite of being, it would still be something, thus contradicting its nature. Since non-being cannot be, being is the only reality. This initial premise serves as the foundation for all subsequent deductions. From the premise that being is, Parmenides then deduces its essential characteristics. Being, he asserts, must be one. If being were multiple, there would be a multiplicity of beings, each distinct from the others. This would imply a boundary between them, a space of non-being separating them. As non-being cannot exist, being cannot be multiple. It must be a unified whole. This concept of unity is central to Parmenides' philosophy. It is not a mere numerical unity, but a fundamental ontological unity, where all of being is interconnected and inseparable. Furthermore, being is indivisible. To divide being would require separating it into parts. These parts would then be distinct from one another, implying a boundary, and thus non-being. Since non-being is impossible, being cannot be divided. It is a continuous, unbroken whole without any internal distinctions or divisions. This indivisibility is a direct consequence of the unity of being. It reinforces the idea of a seamless, homogeneous reality. The immutability of being follows logically from its unity and indivisibility. If being could change, it would have to become something other than what it is. This would imply a process of becoming, a transition from one state of being to another. However, such a transition would require non-being, the absence of the initial state, to allow for the emergence of the new state. As non-being is impossible, being cannot change. It is eternal and unchanging, existing outside of time and the realm of becoming. This concept of immutability is perhaps the most striking aspect of Parmenides' philosophy, challenging the Heraclitean view of constant flux. Parmenides' reasoning leads him to conclude that being is complete, perfect, and spherical. He describes being as resembling the shape of a well-rounded sphere. This is a direct consequence of the properties he has established. Being is limited because it is finite. However, it is also complete, without any gaps. The sphere, according to Parmenides, is the perfect, as it is a continuous, self-contained entity. It is the most complete form, lacking any imperfections or discontinuities. The limitations of being as a sphere ensure it is a perfect whole. The implications of Parmenides' ontology are far-reaching, particularly in relation to the problem of motion and change. If being is unchanging, how can there be motion? If being is indivisible, how can things move from one place to another? Parmenides, by denying the reality of non-being, effectively denies the possibility of any transition, any alteration, any movement from one state to another. Therefore, motion and change as we experience them are mere illusions, products of our faulty perception. The senses, he argues, are unreliable, providing us with a distorted view of reality. The relationship between thought and being is another crucial element of Parmenides' system. He famously states, "For it is the same thing that can be thought and that can be." This assertion is not merely a philosophical statement. It is the very foundation of his epistemology. For Parmenides, thought and being are inextricably linked. What can be thought? The true object of thought must be what truly is. If we can think of something, it must exist. If it does not truly exist, it cannot be genuinely thought. This equation of thought and being implies that reality is inherently rational and that the human mind, when properly employed, can grasp the true nature of things. This emphasis on the power of reason is a defining characteristic of Parmenides' philosophy. setting the stage for subsequent developments in Western thought. It places a high value on logic and deduction as the primary tools for understanding the world. The implications of Parmenides' philosophy were profound. His emphasis on the unity, indivisibility, and immutability of being challenged the pre-Socratic emphasis on the multiplicity and change. He provided a powerful critique of sensory experience, arguing that it is unreliable and misleading. He laid the groundwork for a new way of understanding the world, one based on reason and abstract thought. His influence can be seen in the works of later philosophers, particularly Plato, who grappled with the tension between the world of appearances and the realm of eternal forms. The goddess, in her pronouncements, offers a dual path, a bifurcated understanding of existence itself. One way, the way of truth, concerns itself with what truly is the immutable and indivisible being. The other, the way of opinion, addresses the world of appearances, the realm of becoming, and change accessible through sensory experience. The latter, while presented as a less reliable path, is nonetheless a significant part of Parmenides' system. It provides an account of the cosmos, of the generation of the world as perceived by humans. The cosmology of Parmenides, as revealed within the way of opinion, is constructed upon two fundamental principles: light, often equated with fire, and darkness, often associated with night. These are presented as the ultimate, irreducible elements from which all else arises. Light, representing the positive, the pure, and the noble, is characterized by its clarity and its capacity for revealing. Darkness, on the other hand, embodies obscurity, the absence of light, and the potential for deception. The interaction, or rather the interplay, between these two principles generates the cosmos. This is a universe born of opposition, a dynamic tension between the manifest and the concealed. The goddess, in her wisdom, describes how these two fundamental elements interact to form the world. The process, though complex, is presented as a structured one, governed by inherent principles. The generation of the cosmos, as depicted, is a process of separation and combination, a coming together and a parting. The pure light, the fire, is said to be separated from the darkness, the night. This separation, however, is never complete, as they exist in a state of perpetual interplay. The universe, therefore, is a mixture, a blend of these opposing forces. The influence of Pythagoreanism on Parmenides' cosmology is a subject of ongoing scholarly debate. The Pythagoreans, with their emphasis on number and mathematical relationships, saw the universe as inherently ordered and structured. It is plausible that Parmenides, who was at least familiar with Pythagorean thought, incorporated some of these ideas. The cosmos, in Parmenides' view, is structured, and the interplay of light and darkness could be interpreted as a manifestation of underlying numerical or proportional relationships. The concept of a bounded cosmos, a sphere, also aligns with Pythagorean cosmological ideas. However, Parmenides did deviate from Pythagorean thought, particularly in his rejection of the multiplicity and change that characterized the world. The world of appearances, for Parmenides, is a world of deception, a world where sensory experience leads to error. The goddess emphasizes that the way of opinion is a path that can lead to falsehood. It is a path that relies on the senses, which are inherently unreliable. Humans, in their reliance on their senses, are prone to error and confusion. The world of appearances, therefore, is a world of flux and change, a world that does not reflect the true nature of being. The human understanding, within this framework, is limited by the inherent limitations of sensory experience. The senses provide a fragmented, incomplete picture of reality. The mind, in its attempt to make sense of sensory data, constructs a world of its own, a world that is influenced by opinion and belief. This world, however, is a distorted reflection of the true nature of being. The limitations of sensory knowledge are a central theme in Parmenides' philosophy. He argues that the senses can only provide knowledge of the world of appearances, the world of change and becoming. True knowledge, the knowledge of being, can only be grasped through reason. Reason, free from the constraints of sensory experience, can access the unchanging reality of being. The relationship between the way of truth and the way of opinion is complex. The way of truth provides the foundation for understanding reality, while the way of opinion offers an account of the world of appearances. The goddess, by revealing both ways, acknowledges the importance of both. The way of opinion, though flawed, is the only way humans can understand the world around them. It is a necessary, if imperfect, guide. The implications of this dualism are far-reaching. It suggests a fundamental distinction between the true nature of reality and the world as perceived by humans. It challenges the traditional reliance on sensory experience, emphasizing the importance of reason and abstract thought. The cosmos, as presented in the way of opinion, is a product of the interplay between light and darkness, a world of change and becoming that is ultimately a reflection of the unchanging reality of being. The account of the cosmos, therefore, is not simply a description of the physical world, but a reflection of the underlying metaphysical principles that govern all of existence. It is a complex and nuanced system of thought that has had a profound impact on the history of Western philosophy. The reception of Parmenides' cosmology within his own time and in subsequent centuries was varied. Some, Particularly those who embraced a more mystical or religious approach to philosophy found it compelling. The idea of a unified, unchanging reality accessible through reason resonated with those seeking a deeper understanding of existence. Others, those who were more inclined to embrace the world of appearances and the importance of sensory experience, found it difficult to accept the rejection of change and multiplicity. The denial of the reality of the world as perceived posed a significant challenge to many. The influence of Parmenides' cosmology can be seen in the development of later systems of thought. The emphasis on the principles of light and darkness, the interplay of opposing forces, and the role of reason in understanding reality all left their mark. The concept of a unified, unchanging reality existing beyond the realm of sensory experience became a central theme in many philosophical traditions. The legacy of Parmenides, therefore, extends far beyond his own time. His ideas continue to be debated and discussed. His work remains a significant contribution to the ongoing quest to understand the nature of reality. Parmenides' profound influence on Plato represents a pivotal moment in the history of philosophical thought. The Eleatic philosopher's exploration of being, his assertion of a unified, unchanging reality, provided the foundation upon which Plato constructed his own complex metaphysical system. It was through engaging with and responding to Parmenides' ideas that Plato formulated his theory of forms, the cornerstone of his philosophical framework. The genesis of Plato's theory of forms can be traced directly to Parmenides' central argument. Parmenides posited that true reality is a single, indivisible, and eternal entity accessible solely through reason. Sensory experience, in contrast, provides only a distorted and unreliable view of this ultimate reality. This distinction between the world of appearances and the realm of true being resonated deeply with Plato, who sought a means to reconcile the Heraclitean flux of the physical world with the possibility of genuine knowledge. The problem was this: if everything is in a constant state of change, how can we have any stable, reliable understanding of anything? Plato's solution, the theory of forms, directly addresses this problem. He envisioned a realm of perfect, unchanging forms, which serve as the archetypes of all things in the physical world. These forms, such as justice, beauty, and goodness, are eternal and immutable, existing independently of our minds and the sensory world. The objects we perceive in the everyday world, according to Plato, are merely imperfect copies or reflections of these forms. Thus, a beautiful object derives its beauty from its participation in the form of beauty. The asterisk Parmenides' asterisk dialogue, one of Plato's most challenging works, exemplifies the direct engagement with Parmenides' ideas. In this dialogue, Plato presents a young Socrates grappling with the complexities of the theory of forms, confronting the seasoned Parmenides. The dialogue showcases a critical examination of Parmenides' own monistic views. Parmenides raises a series of objections to the theory of forms, challenging the very nature of the forms and their relationship to the objects of the physical world. These objections, far from being dismissals, represent a rigorous self-critique by Plato. He uses Parmenides' arguments to refine and strengthen his own theory. One key issue raised is the problem of participation. How can a form, which is one, be present in many different objects? Another is the problem of the third man, the infinite regress that arises when one posits a form for the relationship between a form and its participants. The asterisk thetetus asterisk dialogue further illuminates Plato's engagement with Parmenides. In this dialogue, Plato examines the nature of knowledge, exploring various definitions of knowledge and ultimately rejecting them. He critiques the idea that knowledge is merely sensory perception, a position that aligns with the Heraclitean view of constant flux. Plato argues that sensory experience, by itself, cannot provide true knowledge, as it is subject to constant change and is therefore unreliable. This rejection of sensory experience as the primary source of knowledge echoes Parmenides' emphasis on reason as the path to understanding true reality. The asterisk thetetus asterisk underscores Plato's commitment to the idea that knowledge must be based on something stable and unchanging, something akin to Parmenides' concept of being. The influence of Parmenides is also evident in Plato's epistemology, his theory of knowledge. Plato, like Parmenides, believed that true knowledge is attainable, though the path to it is arduous. Plato argued that knowledge is not derived from the senses, but from reason and intellect. The philosopher, through rigorous philosophical inquiry and dialectical reasoning, can grasp the forms, the true objects of knowledge. This emphasis on reason, the rejection of the sensory world as a reliable source of knowledge, and the belief in a higher realm of reality, all reflect Parmenides' profound influence. Plato's response to Parmenides was not simply an acceptance of his ideas. He also critiqued and modified them. While Parmenides focused on the unity and unchanging nature of being, Plato introduced the concept of multiplicity within the realm of forms. There are many different forms, each representing a distinct concept or quality. Plato also addressed the problem of change, which Parmenides had denied altogether. Plato acknowledged the reality of change in the physical world, but he argued that it is a change that is ordered and governed by the forms. The Eleatic arguments particularly those concerning the nature of being and the unreliability of sensory experience, played a crucial role in shaping Plato's epistemology and metaphysics. Parmenides' arguments forced Plato to confront fundamental questions about the nature of reality, knowledge, and the relationship between the mind and the world. The problems of permanence and change, unity and multiplicity, and the relationship between the one and the many all became central themes in Plato's philosophy, directly inherited from Parmenides' initial inquiry. The impact of Parmenides on Plato's thought is undeniable. Plato's theory of forms, his epistemology, and his metaphysics all bear the mark of the Eleatic philosopher. It was through engaging with and refining Parmenides' ideas that Plato developed his own unique philosophical system. The legacy of Parmenides is not simply the concept of being, but the very framework within which Plato constructed his own complex philosophical world. The influence of Parmenides is fundamental, shaping the very questions Plato sought to answer and the methods he employed in his quest for truth. The echo of Parmenides' voice resonated across centuries, its reverberations shaping the very architecture of Western thought. His influence, far from a fleeting trend, solidified into a foundational cornerstone of philosophical inquiry, its contours still discernible in the debates that occupy us today. The Eleatic master's legacy is not merely a collection of abstract concepts, but a profound shift in how we approach questions of existence, knowledge, and the nature of reality. The seeds of metaphysics, as a distinct field of study, were sown in the fertile intellectual ground Parmenides cultivated. His rigorous exploration of being, his insistence on the primacy of thought, and his unwavering focus on the unchanging laid the groundwork for later philosophers to grapple with fundamental questions about the ultimate nature of reality. The very notion of a reality that transcends the sensory world, a realm of eternal truths accessible only through reason, owes its genesis to Parmenides' groundbreaking insights. His work forced subsequent thinkers to consider the distinction between appearance and reality, a distinction that continues to fuel philosophical debate. The impact of Parmenides on epistemology, the study of knowledge, is equally profound. By positing that true knowledge can only be attained through the exercise of reason, he initiated a critical reevaluation of the role of the senses. Prior philosophers, reliant on observation and experience, faced a challenge. Parmenides' emphasis on the reliability of thought over sensory perception, while controversial, compelled philosophers to rigorously examine the sources and limits of human understanding. The very concept of rationalism, the belief that reason is the primary source of knowledge, finds its earliest articulation in Parmenides' philosophical framework. The ripple effects of Parmenides' ideas are evident in the development of later philosophical schools, each in its own way grappling with the challenges he presented. The Stoics, for example, adopted his emphasis on the rational order of the universe, seeking to live in accordance with this cosmic principle. The Stoic embrace of logic and their focus on virtue as the ultimate good reflect, albeit in a modified form, Parmenides' insistence on the importance of reason and the unchanging nature of truth. Their dedication to logical analysis, a direct inheritance from the Eleatic school, allowed them to clarify and systematize their ethical and cosmological views. Neo-Platonism, another influential philosophical movement, further demonstrates the enduring power of Parmenides' thought. Plotinus, the founder of Neo-Platonism, drew heavily on Parmenides' concept of the one, the ultimate source of all being. Plotinus elaborated on this concept, developing a complex metaphysics that posited a hierarchical structure of reality emanating from the one. The Neo-Platonists, like Parmenides, sought to transcend the limitations of the material world, striving toward a mystical union with the ultimate source of being. Their exploration of the relationship between the one, the intellect, and the soul reflects the deep influence of Parmenides' ontological framework. The influence of Parmenides extended beyond specific schools of thought, subtly shaping the very language and methodology of philosophical inquiry. His rigorous logical approach, his careful attention to definitions, and his insistence on coherent argumentation established a new standard for philosophical discourse. The very act of systematically questioning assumptions, of seeking clarity and precision in language, and of constructing elaborate arguments to support claims, all owe a debt to Parmenides' pioneering efforts. His work provided the tools and the framework for generations of philosophers to engage in rigorous intellectual debate. The enduring relevance of Parmenides' idea stems from the fundamental questions he raised about the nature of reality. His challenge to the Heraclitean emphasis on constant change, his insistence on the existence of an unchanging, unified reality, continues to resonate. The problem of the one and the many, the relationship between the eternal and the temporal, the question of whether reality is fundamentally stable or perpetually in flux, remain central themes in contemporary philosophical discourse. His exploration of these issues continues to stimulate debate and inspire new perspectives. The problems of identity, change, and the very nature of existence, as conceived by Parmenides, continue to challenge and fascinate. The limitations of Parmenides' system are also worthy of consideration. His denial of the reality of change His assertion that motion is an illusion presented significant challenges. The world of our experience, with its constant flux and apparent multiplicity, seemed at odds with his rigid ontological framework. While his arguments were logically compelling, they appeared to run counter to our everyday observations. A stark rejection of the sensory world, while promoting the primacy of reason, also risked isolating philosophy from the richness and complexity of human experience. Despite these limitations, the innovative nature of Parmenides' logical approach remains undeniable. His use of logical deduction, his careful analysis of language, and his insistence on internal consistency represented a major advance in philosophical methodology. His insights into the principles of identity and non-contradiction, although not explicitly formulated in modern terms, laid the groundwork for the development of formal logic. His work helped to establish the standards of rigorous philosophical inquiry. The revolutionary character of Parmenides' ideas is evident in the way he challenged the prevailing cosmological and epistemological assumptions of his time. His rejection of the traditional reliance on myth and speculation, his emphasis on reason and logical argument, marked a decisive break with earlier philosophical traditions. The very act of questioning the nature of reality, of seeking to uncover the fundamental principles that govern the universe, was a radical departure. Parmenides' work helped to inaugurate a new era of philosophical inquiry, one characterized by critical thinking, systematic analysis, and the pursuit of truth through reasoned argument. Parmenides' ideas helped to shape the very concept of metaphysics and epistemology. His influence extended to the very nature of philosophical inquiry. His work influenced all subsequent philosophical discourse. The legacy of Parmenides is not merely a collection of abstract ideas, but a transformative shift in how we understand the world and our place within it. His influence is undeniable. The echoes of his thought continue to resonate in the ongoing quest for knowledge and understanding. The Eleatic philosopher, through his profound insights and his unwavering commitment to reason, secured his place as a pivotal figure in the history of Western thought.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.